Here's my review of Challengers. This was a movie where I kind of didn't really know what to expect, and I definitely ended up enjoying it a lot more than I thought I would. Because I will say, this movie is about, it's got a lot of different things where it's a tennis movie, but I don't think I've ever seen tennis like this, of how intense it feels, along with this very complicated romantic relationship where our main character is Tashi, who is this super famous, or well, she's still very young, and then she's like rising the ranks to become this professional tennis player until she gets hurt. She gets hurt, and then basically, in this whole movie, it's kind of like they jump around in different timelines. So at this point, she gets hurt. She can never play tennis again, and this is when she is dating Art. So we basically see, so she's in this hospital. She can't really walk properly. She'll never be able to play tennis again. And we kind of, this movie is very complicated. And because of that, she can kind of almost like, she really wants to almost live her dream through Art of being this professional tennis player. I will say, like, off the bat, all three of our main characters are kind of just terrible people. Like, and you've probably seen this clip on the internet a lot. It's really not as sexual as it may seem here. It is, but like, it's not like goes too crazy. Although this movie does kind of go a little crazy with that, where she basically and when she was younger, they hooked up with both of them, and this one is Patrick, and because of that, we keep flashing forward between the past and the present and the future and stuff, and it just kind of all reveals this really messy, tangled up relationship. And Patrick was her former boyfriend at a certain point, and it just gets very messy. And I will say, though, the way that tennis is shot in this movie is so exhilarating, where you're literally following, like, from the POV of the ball. Like, they hit the ball, you just move really fast back and forth between the other players, and it feels really intense. Like, this movie is very intense, and it feels so high stakes for what is essentially just a movie about tennis, along with these complicated relationships. And I love these beautiful shots, like from underneath, as we're seeing the ball go in the air, and we're seeing their movements from just their feet when Art and Patrick are fighting. And this whole movie just feels, like I said, messy. Not in terms of like made poorly. I thought it was done really well. I thought the movie was very good. But it's almost like a whole movie where, like, because it's jumping around, you're almost like, it feels like you're never really bored. It's not really super long. It's 2 hours and I think 2 hours, 11 minutes, so a little over 2 hours. But it's so exhilarating, even at the slow moments, and especially during those tennis moments, you're just on the edge of your seat watching the ball, from the way, whether you're following the ball or just the editing, from the zoom-ins of literally the sweat dripping off people, you always feel so intense. And like the main kind of conflict is how, of course, we have Art and Patrick were best friends, and then eventually Art and Zendaya's character, Tashi, like, we kind of flash forward, like, when they're married, they have a kid, and and then she's like, you know what, Art, if you don't beat Patrick, I'm leaving you. And it just, like I said, all three of these characters are kind of awful people. But it's interesting because it almost feels like, even though you think these characters, like, none of these characters should be together, like, in terms of, like, they would all be better off alone, but in their own twisted way, they feel like they need each other. And it just feels very weird, but also very engaging. Like, you're not really rooting for any of them, but at the same time, you are. And I like complex characters like that. You're like, should I be happy that Art's with her, or should I not be? What's going on? Am I even supposed to root for her? Am I supposed to root for Art? Am I supposed to root for Patrick? None of them, all of them. And it just makes you feel so many different feelings. And it's just a movie where you're always kind of like changing your opinions on the characters. In a way, you don't even like them, but at the same time, you're so interested in them that you want to keep watching. And at the end, though, they do make up. Like, Art and Patrick kind of become friends again. And it's just this whole time, though, when I'm watching this movie, I'm just like, it's just so exhilarating but at the same time, you're almost disturbed. Like, this should not be a thing. Like, these people should be better off all by themselves. But at the same time, you're like, you kind of want them to not necessarily even get together in a romantic or sexual way. You just want them to make up as friends. But it's just all done in this way where it keeps you on the edge of your seat and you keep guessing. You're like, what's going to happen? Who should I be rooting for? Like, do I want them to just all be friends and make up, or do I really just want them to all get away from each other? Especially even gets more complicated after they have a kid together. It just makes it all in this twisted relationship, but somehow it's thoroughly engaging throughout. And I thought this movie was really good and a very big that can't even speak today. A very big surprise, and yeah, I thought it was pretty good.